Okay. Okay, today we're going to start Samachem Beis at 65b and the Mishnah on the bottom. Two Mishnayos on that page. We're going to start at the second one. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. The source of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. Mishnah says, originally they would say, someone that's being arrested, being taken out to be killed. Bamar, and he says to the people around him, says to witnesses, write a divorce from my wife. So because he's not able to think clearly, he wasn't able to give the full instructions. And they are allowed to write and also give the get. He didn't say to give it, he only said to write. But we know that's what he meant, and we add that in.
Is that an advantage? So his wife won't be an islandess?
His wife won't be an aguna. Aguna. Not just an aguna, because maybe we'll see that he died, but it's type of aguna where she has to wait for the brother to grow up, be able to do chalitza or yivam. She'll be in a situation where she won't be able to get married for some time. That's the concern there. Until he becomes 13. If the husband has a brother, and they didn't the obligation of yivam, so 10 years could be 10 years, right? So we consider that even a temporary yigun is considered yigun. We want them to be able to get married right away. So we add that in. We add in the word yitnu, so that because that's what we assume he meant. Chazru laimar. That was what they originally said, but then they said later, afam mafarish v'yitzi b'shir, even someone that's taking a journey by sea, or he's going on a caravan. The same thing. If he says give a divorce, or if he doesn't say give, if he says write a divorce for my wife, we assume that he meant to write and give. Both, because also you know how it is before you're catching a plane. You don't remember, you're this, you're that. Where's my wallet? Where's my thing? This. Right? They put out the garbage. All the stuff that the instructions. So he was in a hurry, and he forgot to say that. But that's of course what he meant. Reb Shimon Shazuri says even someone that's ill, also because he's distraught, he doesn't know what's going to happen with him. Also, he may not remember to give the full instructions, but that's obviously what that's implied by the statement. Okay, that's the Mishnah. Geniva Yetzer B'Kailar. Geniva, we've had him several times in this Masechta. He's being arrested. He's being taken out to be killed. I don't know exactly what he did, but I know that he was in a fight with the Mar Ukva. And he tormented Mar Ukva. Mar Ukva was complaining about him earlier on Daf Zion. And they told Mar Ukva that he should just go, not do anything. He should just go to the Beis Medrash. And anyway, he went to the Beis Medrash and Geniva gets arrested. So as he's going out, Amar, he said, Havu arba me'azuzi l'Rabavina mechamra denahar panya. Give 400 coins to Ravavina from the wine on Nahar Panya. I guess Geniva had a bunch of barrels of wine there. And he's saying to give to Ravavina coins from that wine. You don't really have coins from wine, but let's see what that means. Amar Reb Zera says, Reb Zera said, Dara Ravavina l'silte. Ravavina should lift up his basket. It means like get ready for a trip. And he should go to Rav Huna, his teacher. Well, the problem is he didn't make a kinyan. I mean, you don't make a kinyan, so you don't really have the rights to anything. The kinyan is that's what happens in Jewish courts. If people come into court, they have claims here and there, and the person says, well, did you make a kinyan? No kinyan. A kinyan means, did you lift up an object that shows, did you click submit? You know, if you didn't do that, so then say, but I filled out the whole form, but he told me clearly, said, but you didn't make a kinyan. So here, he didn't make a kinyan. So Reb Zera says Reb Avina should lift up his basket, go to Rav Huna, Rabbi Dama Rav Huna, because Rav Huna says, Gittin Daf, that just like the get, where you got away with saying half the statement, and that was considered acceptable because he was distraught, he was under distress, so he wasn't able to finish. But we can see what's implied. So the gift as well, the same thing. And if this is Rav Huna's opinion, so you should go to Rav Huna and he'll get a psak. He'll be able to get the money. We have a comparison here between a gift and the get. Just like by a matana, what happens if the person comes back? So then we say that the gift has to come back. Also by the get, by someone that's on his deathbed, he says, write a get for my wife. And then he comes back. So we say that the gift is no good and the get is no good. It was the same thing. So, and now we do the comparison, the opposite. By the get, even if he doesn't say clearly that give the get, he just says write the get. We understand that he means to give it. Even he just says write, it doesn't say give. Also by the gift, even if he said give, but he didn't make the kinyan, that's good enough. We'll say that it's acceptable because of it's implied based on the circumstances that are going on, that he's being taken out to be killed, that it's implied in such a case. If it wouldn't have been taken out to being killed, then we would say, well, look, he said to write it, he didn't say to give it. But because of the circumstances, we say that it means much more than that.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Is there an idea of a dina de malchut adina, like if you don't do a kinyan, but like, American commercial, ways or not to do a kinyan?
What they call that is the minhag medina. That, yeah, they base it on this is the normal way that people in this industry do that. And if that's the acceptable way, then you have to go along with that. Yeah, the person can claim that that's the way all of us in real estate do business. We'd just sign this or do that, and that's considered a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think phone got wet. I think I was like playing with it and all that, but I think anyway. Okay. Maskefla Rababa. Rababa has a question. Imam Matanasa Yeshna Lachamisa, get Yeshna Lachamisa. You're doing this comparison, but you're gonna end up with is that if the gift is only after death, right? By the Shchivmira, that the person that's dying gives this gift that takes place after death. So the get also should take place after death. Because we did a comparison between the get and the Gemara says, what are you talking about? There's no such thing as a get after death. Get all getting have to be before the husband dies. You can't give a get after he dies. She's already a widow. There's no one there to give the divorce. Ella Rababa had a different question. He says like this: but he's challenging Reb Zera. That Reb Zera is sending Rav Avina to Rav Huna and telling him that if you go to Rav Huna, you're going to be able to get all the money. He's challenging Reb Zera. He's saying that Geniva did not give everything away. He only gave some things away. Now, why didn't he give everything away? Because he thinks he has a chance to come back. So if he has a chance to come back, that he's not a real matna shchivmira. If he's not a real matna shchivmira, so then you can't make up these assumptions that this is what he meant and all of that. You see, he kept things for himself. Why do you keep things for himself if he knows he's dying?
Didn't we learn before that even if he didn't have these, I think I'm coming back. If he gave it, but then he got up, that it's
Too late.
kosher.
No, he gives everything away. Oh, 1 second. 1 second. If it's the opposite, if he doesn't give by a matna shchiv meira, I think if he comes back, then he takes it back. But if he doesn't give everything away, so then it wasn't a real matna shchiv meira. I think it was the other way. I think it went the other way. Yeah, I have to look that up again. Where you remember where that was?
Oh, just remember we learned it.
Yeah. Right.
I was wondering if maybe he had like heirs. That's why he didn't give everything.
Yeah, the heirs in mind. You don't want to give it all to.
Uh-huh. I don't know. The rule is, oh, 1 second. Am I jumping over here? No, he's saying that it's by kinyan. If you're not giving everything away, then you have to make a kinyan. Usually by a matna shchiv meira, when a person's on his deathbed, he gives away items. So you don't need a kinyan. Just his word itself is good enough.
Right.
It's already considered acquired. But if he's not giving everything, then you have to do it with a kinyan. So michlal, this would imply the Rav Huna savar loy by kinyan. That Rav Huna holds that you don't need a kinyan, even when it's a matna shchiv meira b'mikta. It's only a partial giving away. It means he's keeping some items for himself. The problem is the boy kinyan. The problem is that we know that if it's a matna shchiv meira b'miktas, if it's a partial, he's only giving some of the things away, that you do require a kinyan. So how could Rav Huna, Rav Zeir is sending him to Rav Huna, that Rav Huna was going to say, how could Rav Huna hold that when we know that that's not the halacha? Shani hacha the mitzvah machmas misahu. It's not just a shchiv meira. Over here, he's being taken out to be killed by the government. Now, this is a different story. When someone's a shchiv meira, means he's ill, he's laying ill, thinks he's going to die, but he's not sure. So he saves some things for himself, just in case. So if that's the case, so we say that you have to make a kinyan on whatever he gave away, or else it's not a real gift, because you see, he maybe thinks he's coming back. Without a kinyan, it's not considered a matna shchiv meira. However, when he's being taken out by the government to be killed, that's much more guaranteed that he's not coming back. So mitzvah machmas miso michlal. So this would imply there are abavasavar mitzvah machmas miso by kinyan, that if someone is dying, that he's taken out to be killed by the government, that he does require a kinyan. And Rav Huna was the one that didn't hold that. The only problem is, but we've established the halacha already, delay by kinyan, that someone that's being taken out to be killed by the non-Jewish court, non-Jewish government, does not require a kinyan. He's considered that he's for sure dying, and we just whatever he says is considered already acquired. El Rabba Hachi Kashale Rabba had a different question. Chamra Laikamar. He didn't say take 400 barrels of wine. He didn't say that. Tmei Chamra Laikamar. He didn't say the value of 400 barrels of wine. He didn't say that either. It says Mei Chamra Kamar. He said take 400 coins from the wine. Now, wine doesn't give coins. So what does he mean? So because of that, he was saying that maybe that's not a good gift. So what did Reb Zeir think? He says, Mechamra kedeliafas is koichay. The reason Reb Zeir is saying, the reason why he said 400 koits from the wine was actually to increase the value of this gift to Rav Avina. Now, the reason is like this. If he would have said from the wine, 400 barrels of wine, so what would happen is, if any of the wine went sour, then the people would say, the other people that want to take the money, heirs or whatever, they would say that, yeah, your wine is the one that went sour. If they said from the value of the wine, the money of the wine, then they would say yeah, your wine is the one that went sour, and the money that for the one that went sour is down to 2 quarters. There's nothing there. It's 50 cents. So he said instead, mechamra from the wine, which means that you have to go and find whatever wine there is to get it, not use the vinegar that's there. Okay. So it was to increase the gift as opposed to what the other one said was that it doesn't exist because there is no money that comes from wine. They sent a halacha from there. I think that means from Eretz Yisrael. That if he says 400 coins from the wine, that's to increase the power of that gift and not to diminish it. Okay. This Mishnah was discussing the incomplete statements of someone that's under distress, that's in distress, and how we make assumptions of what it actually means.
Can you say in the last statement, it says from the wine, that turns the partial into the total, because as you just said, that if the wine is no good, they might have to sell this, but as much as all of the wine to
Right.
equivalent 400.
Very good. Very good. Dr. Stein's adding that could be that they have to sell all the wine if the wine's no good to get the 400 coins, because it's 400 coins from the wine. Means it could be that if the wine goes down, then they have to sell it everything.
And as long as that's there,
Right.
therefore it's the equivalent of
Right. Okay, the next Mishnah is in the Gemara is sort of a famous, popular little piece. Someone that's in a pit. And he says, I think Chassidus made it famous, and said, anyone that hears his voice should write a get for his wife. So in other words, he's in a pit and he's screaming out. Yeah. Anyone hear me? Write a get to my wife. And now he has to add in, of course, his name and his wife's name. That's good enough in this situation. He's fell in the pit. Yeah.
That's because he think he'll never get out. Or threw himself in the pit because he's so happy.
We don't know the background to the story. You can make it up. Be like Tiki Tiki Tembo, you know that kid's book.
It's the only share all the riots come from kids.
It's these 2 kids in China that would eat their rice cakes by the well, and they fell in. But the story was about that the older son always had nice long names, but when the boy ran to the old man with the ladder to, you don't have this, to tell him that my brother fell into the well, he was so out of breath, it took him so long. So it took a long time for the old man to come. So they started to make the names in China much smaller. Okay.
I remember some picture here, but that like the jails were like that before, like were just this huge pit and put the person
Maybe. Yeah, could be. This is like a prison. So we say that that's enough. If the person only said, write a get for my wife. He didn't say to give it, but that's good enough. He said the names. Okay. Maybe the person calling out was a demon. How do you know it was a real person? Today we would say maybe it was a speaker system. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, we saw the image of a man. The Gemara says, how do you know that a demon can't appear to be like a man? This is, well, the Chazal Bua, we saw his shadow. Oh, you saw the shadow. Okay. The Gemara says, demons also have shadows. It says, the Chazal Bua, we saw the shadow of the shadow. Now, their shadows don't have shadows. But what it means is that means that, yeah, if the light's coming from 2 directions, one of them is going to be stronger than the other.
How do you see a shadow in the bottom of the pit if you
You must have seen it against the wall of the pit.
field trip.
And maybe he was able to look down, but it was dark, couldn't really see so well, and there was just a little shadow. I don't know. I guess you had to be there.
I don't want to.
No, you want to props?
Bad enough Yosef was there. Look what happened.
Yeah, it's scorpions in there. But maybe demons also have shadows of shadows. Reb Chanina says the Manatani Yonasan Beni told me, or some have on the side, Yonasan the demon told me. It means he had a conversation with the demon. The demon told him, Bavua is slow, Bavua the Bavua less slow. They only have a shadow, demons. They don't have shadows of shadows. No, now we get practical. Maybe it's the co-wife.
Is that why they're called shade?
Yeah. Oh, that's not interesting.
Shadow.
That interesting. Dr. Stein has a chiddush. It says the reason why they're called shadim is because they have a shadow. Tail. Over here it's called bua. Shade is tail, but the shadow is called bua. Yeah, right. It's the shadow of the down. Maybe it's the co-wife that's in there and is trying to mess up the rival wife. She's shouting out. Puts on a deep voice. Give her. Okay.
The daughter-in-law, the mother-in-law.
Right. So Tana debate Rabbi Yishmael taught in the yeshiva Rabbi Yishmael b'shas sakana kaisim v'nais naf b'shem makirin. It's not a problem because in the time of danger, that even if you don't recognize the person, but that's good enough when the person says his name. Yeah, so that's why we're allowed to do this special exemption. I went to the prison recently to do a get for someone, and when I got out, basically we had to get instructions for the cipher and for the Eidim and this, all the instructions. When I got out, the rabbi said, "How do you know that the person saying that it was him was the real guy?" I said, "Well, he introduced himself like that." He said, "Did he show you ID?" I said, "No, but the other rabbi that was with me knew him." He said, "Okay, that's good enough." Otherwise, yeah. I mean, they have a thing, but I wasn't like careful to see it. You have to actually see identification to make sure.
Yeah, they're all wearing orange. And there's like a lot of shadows. You don't know who's who.
No, I'm not active, but little things still do in the summer.
I don't think prisoners have IDs.
They have some sort of thing on their shirt that says, yeah.
Okay.
You have tattoos.
that could be someone else. Could be the guy they. Right.
That's good.
Right. Okay. Habari Sha'amar, a healthy person that says, "Kiss will get lishti, write a get for my wife." Ratzal asachikba doesn't really mean to give the get. He's just could be he's just playing with her to scare her. Says, "That's it. You bought another dress on with the credit card." She calls up and write a get for my wife. No, it's really not. Doesn't mean it. It's just playing around. I got a call once. Says, "I need a get right now." We can't. I have to, schedule it in. We can do it maybe in a month. Said, "I need it right now. You can't do it within this half hour. I want to get now." I said, "Lady, just sit down." And anyway, they're happily married. It's one of these little skirmishes, So okay, so the husband drank too much. She was upset. So Maisa Bar Yachad was a story of a healthy person. Sha'amar, that he said, "Kiss will get list. You ready to get for my wife?" He went up to the roof. He falls off and he died. Amr Shimon ben Gamliel. Shimon ben Gamliel says, "1 second. If he fell on his own, that means he killed himself."
Yeah.
To Makar, okay.
That's why he went up.
Oh, he went up to Makar?
No, he wanted.
No.
He wrote the bill in order to make fun of her, right? To mock
Right,
her.
right. Like to tease her.
Tease her. Okay.
Right. So if he went up and he was throwing himself off the roof, so and he was saying, write a get from my wife, then this must have been very serious. And then he probably meant write it and give it. But in Maruach Tachatai, but if the wind pushed him off, so then it's just an accident.
Wow.
name Wind.
Yes, he says his wife's name was Wind. So then in a get, then it's not a good get because he was not planning on dying. He just went up to the roof to smoke. But it was going to relax, and then he fell off. So he never said to actually divorce his wife. It's just a regular accident.
In the English here, it says he was intending to commit suicide.
Right.
And if you hold that, then he was not of sane mind. And why should you say the get was appropriate?
No, you're adding in that when we say someone is committing suicide and we want to bury him in the Jewish cemetery or give him a burial, officially we don't do that. We say that he was probably not of sane mind.
So why
Okay,
can't you say
so
here,
that's why-
therefore, doesn't
No.
the get have to be?
That's a
When
leniency
it's-
that we'll do, but for this. But if that doesn't mean that we really hold that that's the case always, and therefore he's went crazy and he can't give his wife a get.
So
Could
a
be
crazy person during
general, a
his
crazy
acute
person
psychosis still
cannot.
can give a get?
No.
Cannot.
But we don't say really that someone that's committing suicide is really crazy. We say that as a leniency, he should be able to be buried. Yeah, and we say it regarding certain things, not regarding his instructions. Okay. The Gemara says, what just happened in this Mishnah? You started off saying that someone says, write a get for my wife. He's just mocking her. He's just teasing her. Now you tell me a story where someone says, write a get for his wife and he was healthy and he goes up to the roof. We say that it's not. So the story is contradicting the halacha beforehand. It was not what we were expecting the story to be following that halacha. The Gemara says, my solicitor, the story is contradicting the halacha beforehand. So the Gemara says, no, it was missing a little clause in that Mishnah. It says, that if the end result proves what his intention was originally, then harez a get, then that could be a good get. For example, my Sanami Bibari, we have a story. There was a healthy person. Shamar Kisvu get list. He said, write a get for my wife. Well, Reisha Gagi went up to the roof and Afal Mason, then he fell off. And Amram Shemang a get. And again. So it depends what the end of the story was. Will we say that this was a get? Depends how he fell off. Okay. Right. Who Gavra was a person, the Alabei Knishta. He went into Shul. Ashkach Makri Yanuka, who Berei, the Asvi. Sees a teacher and his son that were sitting. The Yasav in a Shachina Gabayo, and there was another fellow that was there. Amar he says to them, this fellow that walked in, two of you want you to be messengers for Adam to write a get to my wife. Now the teacher passed away. Gemara is asking like this: did this fellow have intention that the child could be one of the witnesses? Now the child, of course, was bar mitzvah. Of course, he was eligible to be a witness. Only thing is that when you have a father and a son and someone else sitting together, and he says two of you, if he doesn't mean the father and his son, he must mean the father and the other guy. Does he mean the son and the other guy? Probably not, because the father, he wouldn't have meant the son, right? Well, or maybe not. Rav Nachman says the man for sure did not mean that the son should be a shliach when the father's there. Rav Papi says no. The son is an individual. Could have meant that the son as well. Rava says the Rava says the halacha is that a person could have considered making the son a shliach in the place even when the father's around. Okay, next Mishnah. Someone says to two people. Now, when he says to two people are witnesses. Where's the cipher here? He says to two people, Tenu get lishti, give a get to my wife. He didn't say to write the get. I think we're going to assume that He means write it. If you're going to give it, how are you going to give it without writing it? Okay. Or L'shloisha, he says to 3 people, kisvu get to lishti. He says, write again and give to my wife. They're allowed to write and give. And
Hello,
yeah.
I am.
Oh,
Yeah, I couldn't get it on there.
Okay. So there's 2 points here. One is that 3 people could have been a bezdin. 3 people could have been a bezdin. Once there's a bezdin, then they themselves don't need to do the writing and the signing themselves. Bezdin can instruct other people. And there were 3 people there. But nevertheless, because he said kisvu, to write it, to know, he's actually instructing them themselves to be the witnesses and the scribe. It says, they are going to write it and sign it. The other point of this was that if you tell 2 people to know, then that's good. If he would have told the 3 people, he wouldn't have said write it. If he would have just said to know, then they would have understood that that's a bezdin, and the bezdin can instruct others. So, for example, the next case, Amal Shloisha, he says to 3 people, to nu get lishti, give a get to my wife. They could tell other people to write it. Neshas and bezdin, because 3 people is a court. Everything, the instructions change when you have a court there. When it's a court, then they don't have to do it themselves. They're just instructing the bezdin to instruct others. But if there's 2 people there, or if there's 3 people, but he gives them themselves the instructions to write it, says write it, he adds in that word, then they have to actually do the writing themselves. Divrei Meir, v'zu halacha hella Reb Chanina Yishayna mebeis ha'asurim. Reb Chanina Yishayna went to visit Rabbi Akiva in prison, and when he came out, he brought this halacha. He says, "Makubal ani b'ayim l'shleisha tnu get lishti sheyomer lachem v'yichtem b'nei shasim bezdin." That if you tell 3 people, write a get for my wife, then they don't have to do the get themselves. They can tell others, because that was instructions to the bezdin that they can instruct others. Amar Rabbi Yosi says, "Numeinu l'shliach." We said to the shliach, in other words, we said to Reb Chanina Yishayna that brought this instruction, brought this halacha out of the prison. Afana mikubalim, we've established, we've accepted. Shafilu amal besna gal shabi Yerushalayim tinu get lishti sheyilmadu v'yichtu v'yitnu. That's not the case. That if you tell the bezdin, even the bezdin agadol in Yerushalayim, you tell the high court that give a get to my wife, then the bezdin themselves have to practice the writing. They have to learn how to write, and they have to do it themselves. You can't say that, oh, it's a bezdin, and that they can give instructions to others. Amala Sarah. Someone says to 10 people, Kisvu tinu get lishti. This is like in Shul. Says, shouts out to the minion. Write and give a get to my wife. One person can do the writing, and 2 other people will do the signing. Kulchem ksuvu says, I want all of you to write. Well, you can't all write the get. Well, there's only one sefer. But what he really means is that I want all of you to sign on the get, and that's like a stipulation that I want to really, probably saying he wants to embarrass his wife. Once they have 10 people at the get, signing.
He's got his own Declaration of Independence.
How many signatures are on the
More
Declaration
than
of Independence?
22.
22? That's what he's calling a Declaration of Independence.
There's 13 colonies.
The get.
People find 26.
What?
Hancock, 27.
5 guys are noticed to be an absolute swine.
So there's 27 people on the,
I
on
made
the
that up
Declaration.
also. There's 13 colonies, they all signed on.
Uh-huh.
I think there were two representatives.
Oh,
Those guys are all.
Look it up.
Lefikach, therefore, it may second memory is a get bottle. If one of those 10 people died, then they can't give the get,
Oh, 10 of them.
because the guy made a stipulation that he wants 10 signatures on the get.
Oh,
You only have 2 signatures normally on a get. But this fellow's an interesting guy. He wants it to be done like that.
this from Ono? Is this the guy from
No.
Ono?
Chanina Yishayna was the one that brought the message that if you tell a bezdin that the bezdin can instruct others to do it.
Ono, is this a famous place? Ono?
Um,
Yes, because in Florida, there is a major phosphate mine in Ono.
oh, that's the city? Oh, no?
It's town, Ruthtown has a post office.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and that mine is still looking for two guys who broke into videotape it.
It's the grass and the.
Let's say that.
Amr Rabbi Yirmiyah Barabba.
56.
56 people signed it.
56.
Oh, it's so close.
Wow. 56.
I told you it was a lot. I said 56.
Four for each person. Property.
56 minutes.
And no
That's what I
women.
said, I believe that's what I said.
Okay. Amr Rabbi Yirmiyah Barabba, Rabbi Yirmiyah Barabba says, Sholchalim Ibei Rav L'Shmuel. This is very uncommon. That the yeshiva of Rav asked the question from Shmuel. I thought Rav was older than Shmuel. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe Rav wasn't there. Maybe Rav had passed away already. Then it would be Rav Huna's yeshiva. Rav Huna took over the yeshiva after Rav. Okay. They said, Yalamdeinu Rabbeinu. Our teacher, teach us. Our master, teach us. Amal Shnayim. If someone says to two people, Kisvu tenu get liishti. Write and give a get to my wife. If they didn't do the writing themselves, they instructed a scribe to write it, and then they signed it. Ma, what's the din? That wasn't the instructions given by the husband. And the husband said, you should write it. And they got a cipher to write it. Shalach lahu teitze. So Shmuel responds, first of all, if the woman thought that that was a good get and she got remarried, based on that, she has to get divorced.
They weren't
It's a
competent
suffix.
to write. They're just two guys.
Right. But we still have to look into the matter. Maya David Tzarech Talmud, what is Shmuel saying that he has to look into? What it was his doubt? If it's because mili means words, is this just the instruction was just words? You see, what happens is if someone gives a shliach a get, take this to my wife, he can't make it all the way. So he can take the get and hand it over to someone else and make him a shliach, because there's actually an item that's being transferred. But if someone says to write a get, and there is no item that's being transferred to the next person that's going to write it. I can't say, well, he told me to write it. Now I'm telling you to write it, so I'm passing on the baton. There's nothing to pass on. There's nothing there, because he just told them it was instructions. That's just a verbal instruction. If there was an actual item, then he can actually appoint someone else that I need you to take it because I can't make it the whole way. So mili, mesafkale mili mimshan l'shliach eloi mimshan l'shliach, and Shmuel has a doubt. Can you pass on a mission that is only a mission without an item that's attached to it?
Whoa, big question. What's the Chassidus on this one?
Shmuel, the problem with this is Shmuel says, I'm a Rebbe in the name of Rebbe. Halacha Rabbi Yaisi, the halacha is like Rabbi Yaisi, Damar mili loy mimsam l'shliach, that you can't pass it on. So why does Shmuel even have a doubt? If that's his doubt, we know the answer. Then there's no doubt. It's no good.
The domino effect, yes, and then not getting into quantum physics, but
No,
when
get into quantum physics.
it's the next, nothing's being forget about energy, but and then that one falls, and then it's next that one. So you're passing on stuff, but you're not.
Oh, yeah.
No, get into quantum physics.
You're just transferring the energy.
So it's the transfer. El Shmuel, hi kami boylei. Shmuel must have had a different question. Hi ksufu. When it says, he told them, write a get, or kisfu, no, ksufu, write a get. Iksav yadan, iksav a get. What did he mean? Did he mean write when, the signatures are also writing? Did he mean ksav yadan, that it should be their signature? Ksav yadan is a fancy way of saying the signature. Iksav a get, or is it the get? When he gave them that instructions, did he mean that they should actually write it, or did he mean that they should sign it with writing? 1 second, we have a Mishnah. Why don't we look back in the Mishnah? You're telling me a story They asked the story from Rav asked Shmuel, but what about our Mishnah? If someone says to people, to get lishti, give a get to my wife, she says to 3 people, kiss forget it in the list here, know that they have to write it. See? Gemara says he guva kami bayalek suva ksav yadanu ksav getu. In the Mishnah, we have a question as well. We don't even know what the Mishnah means. Does the Mishnah mean that you have to write it, or does the Mishnah mean that you have to sign it? Maybe they could get someone else to write it. Says pshita the ksav getu. It must mean that they have to write it. Why? The Ketani Seifa, because if you read further, it says like this: Amar Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi says Numeinu l'shliach, that we told to the shliach, which is Rabbi Chanina ish Einai. We told them when he came, they brought the message from Rabbi Akiva. He says no. That even if the person told the High Court in Yerushalayim that write a get and give it to my wife, or give a get to my wife, that they have to actually practice the writing of the get and sign it. Now, if they have to practice the writing of the get, then I understand they have to practice the writing. But if they only have to sign it, because the writing of the get, they could get someone else, because they said kisvu to write it. Is it possible that the judges in the court don't know how to sign their names? What does it mean they have to practice? Obviously, it must mean that the instructions were that they have to write the get, and that would be something that you have to practice. The Gemara says yes, there is such a thing, where the members of the court couldn't sign their names. It could be dina charata. It's a new court, 3 people, and they're still practicing to sign their names. Okay, now the Gemara goes to a new question. If when he said to write to get it, we're talking about their signatures, aksava get kosher, but the writing of the get that they told to the cipher was fine, they told someone else to write. In other words, they got someone else to write the get. How were they allowed to do that? You can't pass it on. They were told to write it. Who gave them the right to give over instructions to someone else? They can't make a shliach like that. Amri, Isfir le de ksuva ksav yadnu ksav get nasaka imer imru umayde Rabbi Yosi ba imer imru. Since the writing of the get, since when they say write a get, he really means sign the get. So what happened to the writing of the get? It must mean that it's the writing of the get, there's an implied statement there that the writing of the get is the husband told them that they can tell someone else to write the get. It's implied. They're not going to write the get themselves, they're not capable. It's implied that they're going to get a cipher to write the get. Now Rabbi Yosi agrees that Ba'imer Imru, that's Ba'imer, when he says Imru, say to someone else to write the get, that's acceptable. Okay, let's leave the Gemara over here.
Sunday 6 a.m.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
Sign a little extra property. Monday you're on. Tough weekend.
You know what you're gonna do? You're gonna do